So with that information, I am turning this session over to Dr. Terry Langen and to Susan Anderson, who will guide us through the academic expectations process.
Thank you, Sister Sharon. My name is Terry Langen, and I'm an academic dean in the College of Arts and Sciences. I just finished my 26th year here at St. Thomas, so if you ask me, it's an awfully nice place to be. Most of the time that I've been here, I was teaching in the Department of Economics, was also department chair in that department before moving over to the dean's office a few years ago. On behalf of all the faculty and the academic staff, not only in the College of Arts and Sciences, but also in the School of Social Work, the School of Engineering, the School of Education, and the College of Business, we'd like to welcome you to St. Thomas. We're awfully glad that you're here. With me this morning is Susan Anderson, who is Director of Academic Counseling and Support at St. Thomas. We are here to talk to you this morning about the academic expectations that we hold for your students and to enlist your aid in helping us to convey those expectations to them. Your students will have an opportunity later today to hear for themselves from a member of the faculty about these same expectations. But that should not be the last time they hear this clear and consistent message. They should hear it from us, and hopefully they'll hear it from you over the next several weeks leading up to the start of classes, and maybe even over the next couple semesters, just as good reminders. After Susan and I have finished with our presentations, we'll be happy to take any questions that you have about academic life at St. Thomas. In addition, you probably won't get all your questions answered, but that's okay, because over the lunch hour there's an information fair where there'll be lots and lots of people available to answer your questions, including a lot of department chairs to answer those curriculum questions. So, in making a list of the academic expectations that we have for your students, first and foremost would be that your student needs to take primary responsibility for his or her own education. So let me repeat that. Your student needs to take primary responsibility. Please allow them to do that, even if they struggle a little bit at first with this, because it's not something that they're used to. So it may be difficult, and they'll figure it out. I'm thinking it might even be difficult for some of you, because probably up to now you have been the one taking primary responsibility for their education. But you have to trust that you can do this now without you being the one in charge. You're going to be tested along the way. You'll be tempted to step in on your student's behalf, stand aside, let me solve this problem for you. Please don't do that. Okay, so I said you're going to be tested along the way. Your first test may come as soon as lunch. When your student tells you a little bit nervously that he will be meeting with a counselor this afternoon to discuss his first semester of classes without you. Okay? Please put on a brave face, even if you're not feeling it, and say something like, don't be nervous, you're going to do fine. Don't forget to ask about this. Yeah. Perhaps you can console yourself while you're putting on that brave face with the knowledge that your student will be meeting with a trained professional who has done this many times very successfully. And more good news, and this is a secret just between us, we don't need to share it with the students. In a college career of 33 courses, there's virtually no way to mess up choosing the first 4. So it's really going to be okay. In fact, Susan will have more to say about this in her presentation. Just out of curiosity, I'm wondering, could I see a show of hands from those parents for whom this is a first child beginning college? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm teasing. It's going to be okay. All the people that didn't raise their hand, talk to them. They'll tell you it's going to be okay. In fact, talk to me. I just had a son graduate in May. Very proud dad. I'll tell you, if he can make it, anybody can do it. The thing you need to know, the thing that your student needs to know, there are lots and lots of resources available to help at St. Thomas, if only your students will seek out those resources. So that's a job I'll give you, is to encourage those, encourage your students to seek out those resources. First and foremost are going to be the professors. You know, students come in, they're a little bit afraid sometimes of professors. They don't want to reach out to them. Get over it. The professors are here to help. The professors, I'll let you in on a secret, they like students or they wouldn't be here. Okay, they like to teach. They like to spend the time with the students. If they didn't, they'd be teaching, you know, quote, teaching somewhere else. So look for those resources. I will tell you, though, that what the professor is looking for is to see your student make an honest commitment to their own learning. And once they see that, things are going to be great. So in order to take responsibility, I think it's important for your student to understand what their role is here at St. Thomas. I would like to stress that your students are not consumers of a good. They are not buyers, and we are not sellers, even though we will send you a bill from time to time. But the thing I want to stress is St. Thomas is not a mail order company where you can pre-order ahead of time this pre-packaged degree and just stop by and pick it up. Okay, your student needs to come inside, be prepared to stay for a while, and actually be the one who's producing that good. So in a choice between buyer and producer, your student is the producer of their education. They're going to be deeply engaged in the production process of their education. We'll provide them with the tools that they need, but then they need to go to work. So the production will take place in the classrooms, in the laboratories, in music ensemble practice rooms. It will take place in the library filled with resources, in the auditoriums with guest speakers, and in the late night study sessions in the residence halls. It will take place in service learning opportunities, in internship opportunities, and in study abroad opportunities. The recurring theme there, of course, is the word opportunity, and as the word suggests, your student needs to be willing to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. They can't be passive. They need to take an active role in the creation of their education. This isn't grade 13. It's not a continuation of high school. It's new. It's different. They're no longer, simple receptors of information sitting, passively while we pour stuff in their head. They're going to be the builders of that education. Now, the hard thing for some parents to come to terms with is that you don't have a big role to play anymore in the success of your student. You have done just about all that you can to get them to this point. And by the way, congratulations for getting them to this point. There's still a role to play. I don't want to say, you got nothing, left to do. You got stuff to do. But I think it's going to be a little bit different than what maybe you're used to. So what can you do? From my point of view, you can be supportive and encouraging of their learning. Take an interest in what they're learning. Ask your student about his or her classes. Maybe take an interest in one in particular. It'll probably be the economics course, but maybe it'll be something else. Follow along through the semester. What did you learn this week? And then listen to what they tell you. Let them know that what they're doing is important, but remind them that they're the one that's doing it. And again, when they run into problems, discuss the strategies that they can use to solve their problems. At the end of their 4 years at St. Thomas, our most successful students will tell you about the mentor relationships that they formed with professors, including the work they've done together, in some cases maybe papers they've written together, or conference presentations they've made together. They will speak of the close relationships they formed with librarians who have taught them how to do research, and writing center staff who have taught them how to present their ideas. They will speak of the relationships they have formed with community members through their service learning projects, and relationships that they formed with people from around the world through study abroad. And most importantly, they will tell you about the ideas that they've encountered along the way and how those ideas have changed how they view the world and changed how they live in that world. They have come to view their education as having been created by themselves in partnership with some others, the faculty and staff they worked with along the way. And they're going to be really proud of what they've done, and they should be. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Anderson. I'm the Director of Academic Counseling and Support, and I oversee the staff of academic counselors who have registered your son or daughter for fall semester classes. And I'm delighted to welcome you on behalf of our department. We love working with first-year students. We love this time of year when you're finally with us. We plan for this all year long, so this is a great time of year for us. I'm here to inform you about how the enrollment process has happened, and so you feel well informed about that. As Dr. Langen mentioned, we have intentionally separated parents and students for the advising session this afternoon. And I want to be clear that we know that you have a ton of information, you likely have really good questions, and that you know your son or daughter better than anyone. We know that. You've already heard this morning some themes about engagement, about engagement and ownership on the part of students, and today is an orientation. So we want to give them a little bit of practice in that, and we really believe that having an individual conversation with them without parents is an important step in that. It's very natural for students to just kind of take a passive role and kind of let you steer the ship when you're a part of that. And so we know that for some students, they've done things like this. It's not that hard. For others, it'll be pretty new. And so we're ready for that. But we really believe that that communicates something about how we proceed from today forward. Prior to today, we've asked students to do some things for us to help us prepare for the enrollment. And many of you have been involved in that, just helping your son or daughter with these steps. Some we've asked to take placement exams if we needed those for the information we needed. We've asked them to read over a document called the Orientation and Registration Guidebook. And I've put the website up here as well. That's still available. Sometimes it's helpful to read that after orientation, after you've had lots of information from us during the day, and then go back and read this. It gives lots of good context about degree requirements and about courses that are available to first-year students, and just a really great resource. We've also asked students to complete an online questionnaire that we call the Online Course Preference Form. And this is the way that we gather all kinds of very detailed information about your son or daughter and about all of our 1,300 plus students. So students certainly have ideas about the academic major that they might be considering, and they might change their mind about that. We're ready for that. Many have earned credit elsewhere. They've earned credits through advanced placement, or maybe they've taken college courses somewhere. Some have not done that, and that is fine too, but we want to know where students are at in regard to that. Anything logistically that affects the fall semester schedule. Do they want to be on an athletic team, or participate in a music ensemble, or are they in the ROTC program? Things like that. All of those logistics are important. So we've asked questions about that, and then when students submit that, we get individualized reports in our office with all of this. And our staff pores over these individual reports and selects courses for students that they need that will be a good fit for the puzzle in moving forward. So we're very, very attentive to the individual detail that's necessary, and we have a bigger picture that we have in mind too. We have an equity process. So as you might imagine, just again, these are logistics. There's popular class times for students, and I bet you can guess when they are. Late morning and early afternoon, right? And so we have sections of those of courses available, and we've given everyone some of those popular class times, and we've distributed what we would consider less popular, early morning, later afternoon, and evening classes. And it's all a matter of taste. Sometimes students like all different kinds of things, but it's important to us that all students have equity in that regard, so we don't have some students piecing together some things that make their fall semester schedule just really logistically difficult. What I can say is that students will have classes that they need. They will meet degree requirements in the first semester, and we know our curriculum really well, and we know that I know that it's hard to screw up the first 4 semesters, but there's some complications about it as well, and so we're really aware of how to put that together. So, that's how we've approached the registration process. What I want to show you here, and I know Dr. Wyatt's presentation this morning had some sample schedules, but I just wanted to give you an overview of some of this as well, and all of these are in the orientation and registration guide. So if someone tells us they're interested in maybe in a business major, all of these classes are core curriculum requirements, and they're varied depending on placement in things like English and language. So it's very common for students to have 4 classes, 16 credits. Our classes are 4 credits each. Sometimes students have 12 credits, depending on their situation. The nice thing about this schedule is that the economics course, that is a very popular class, meets a core requirement, and it also meets a requirement in a business major, so it kind of overlaps in that way, which is great. I want to spend a moment talking about science and pre-health schedules, because we've had some concerns from parents in the past, and understandably so. If students tell us they're interested in a pre-health path or a science major, things like pre-medicine, pre-pharmacy, pre-dentistry, things like that, or biology, biochemistry, their schedule, and again it depends on their placements in certain things, will likely look like this: chemistry, biology, a math course, usually a calculus class, and then another core class. And the feedback for us, both from students and parents, has been, yeah, that's a lot. Boy, is that too much? And so this is where I think we want to challenge you and our students to say, it isn't, can I do it, but how do I pull resources together to tackle this? There are hundreds of students with this same schedule. They come together very quickly to form a community to help each other. We have wonderful resources in our science departments, learning communities, and other things. And this is the path that sets them forward successfully. So I want to assure you of that. Is it rigorous? It is. And there are resources to help students tackle that. Many of our students, we are undecided. We like to call them exploring. Sounds much more exciting. And there are courses, again, that we can enroll them in that will help them make degree progress, courses required for all students regardless of the major that they eventually declare. And then there's some departments, not all, that offer introductory courses to their major. Communication and journalism is an example of that. So if a student tells us, I'm interested in journalism as a potential major or minor, if there's a seat available in the introductory COJO course, we would likely register him or her for that. So that's that example. So, as I mentioned, the schedules have been created. They are ready. We're ready for this afternoon. Your son or daughter will meet with an academic counselor or a faculty advisor. It will be a 15-minute consultation, and the information will be presented to your student. And certainly there are reasons to make changes. If a student said, you know what, I said I was interested in biology and I'm no longer interested in that major, we would want to take a look at that and make appropriate changes. If they tell us things like, please hear this as a joke, I'm not really a morning person, doesn't have the same weight to us to make the change, and as you might imagine. And our equity process really is important to us. So there's certain things that we have to politely say, sorry, that's not really how we're going to make changes. But it's a conversation today, and we really want to make the most of that. This will be the only time that a schedule will be presented to your son or daughter, just with all of the complications of credits coming in and all of this. We just believe this is how we best serve our incoming students rather than make them figure that out right at the beginning and then have inequity as it rolls out. After this, we will guide students through the registration process. They'll be signed to a faculty advisor who will consult with him or her, and they will have the choice. They will get to look at the different choices and pull their schedule together themselves, and they'll have all kinds of, they'll have the ability to pick the sections they want. They'll get to know instructors and things like that. So this is the only time that we'll do this for them. It's a 15-minute consultation, as I mentioned, and we have lots of students who want to talk about all kinds of things, and we love that, by the way. They want to talk about four-year planning, and what if I do this major, this different major, and how will that look? And we want to have that conversation with students that want that. We don't have time to do that today. I just want to manage that expectation. Frankly, the best time to have that is once they're here. They're settled in, they have become acquainted with their roommates, or if they're commuting, they've figured out where the parking is and all of that, and they've started classes, and then they're in a mind frame to have that conversation, and we have time, and we're inviting them to come in and do that. We'll do all that kind of planning in the first part of fall semester, and we will send them reminders to come and see us as well. There'll be questions after today. I get it. They're taking in a lot of information, and we invite you to call us back after you leave today, read over the guide or whatever. We want to consult with you. I want to say that if you call on behalf of your son or daughter and ask for changes or information, there's very little that we can do legally on their behalf if you are the only person in the conversation. So the example I give that I have felt is such a good one, when I was talking to an incoming student, she called. She was actually filling out the course preference form, and she had some questions. She called and she said, I have some questions. I'm a new student. I said, great. She said, my dad's on the other line. I said, great. She asked her questions. We got those taken care of. Her dad said, I have a couple more questions before we conclude. And we got that taken care of in a three-way conversation. And I hung up the phone, and I just thought that was just such a great way for that father to give his daughter some practice at that kind of conversation. Many of students haven't had a chance to do that before, and so we're kind of coaching them, and we ask for your help with that. Again, instead of you calling on behalf of them. And it starts to get easier for them, and we hope that it becomes pretty enjoyable for them. We want to hear directly from them as well. So I want to give you that piece of advice and a request. And we really hope that it is a partnership and that we are teaming up together to really equip your student to produce his or her education. We look forward to really getting to know him or her and working together in the next several years. So with that, we are glad to answer your questions.
Thanks, Susan. So Susan said we'll answer questions you might have about the academic side of things here at St. Thomas. If your question is maybe better answered in a later session, say how does bill paying work here? Susan, I don't really understand that very well, but someone else will be along who will. So we might defer that to a later session. In addition, any really specific questions about a particular major, over the lunch hour, that information fair with the department chairs is probably the best place to get the real detailed answers about a major. But feel free to ask us anything, and we'll try to give you a major, or give you an answer, or point you to someone who can answer. I usually start with the first question, because the first question, this is the question that almost always comes up, and it comes with an uncomfortable answer. So I prefer to give the uncomfortable answer to me than to one of you nice people. And the question is something like this. Well, certainly you'll be sending grades home in the mail to the parents, right? And if I should ever have questions about how my student is doing in class, I should just feel free to pick up the phone and call the professor, right? The uncomfortable answer to both those questions is no and no. We don't send grades home, and you can't call the professor. And there's I can give you a couple reasons for that. One is a very legalistic reason, and that is that the United States Congress has given to our adult children certain rights to privacy. And the law, as we know it, is called FERPA. The information on their academic performance is their information. If you want that information, you need to get them to share that information with you, which mostly is not a big problem, but that's the way it needs to be. So I'll give you a better reason maybe why I'm less concerned about that. And it comes from my own experience when we're sending our oldest off to college. And I'll admit, in July, I was laser focused on grades. What kind of grades is this kid going to get? How is he going to, is he going to perform like he did in high school? Grades. But I'll tell you, as August came along, and that dreaded September drop-off date and leave them and turn around, I had all sorts of other questions that I wanted answers to. Questions like, will he be happy? Will he make friends? Will he remember to eat? Will he get that laundry thing figured out, or just wear dirty clothes all the time? So all kinds of questions that no dean or no director of academic counseling could answer for me. Only my son could answer. So I would encourage you to start asking questions now, get in that habit. And I would also recommend that when you ask those questions, don't make them always about grades. Once in a while, slip in something about the academic performance, but don't make them always about the grades. Okay, so who has the second question?
Yes, thank you. Is this on? Thank you for the question. It's Army ROTC and courses at the U of M. For those, we have communicated well with the U of M and ROTC, and we've coordinated courses so the commute and everything is comfortable and that we have a puzzle that fits in that way. Yeah. The question is, will counselors know if we have final transcripts? We are checking that ongoing. So they're kind of coming in, and if it isn't here, we will let them know that, and if it is, we will. So they'll get that update this afternoon. Thanks.
And remember at the lunch, the helpful hints you can give your student. Remember to ask about this. Remember to ask if the AP score is showing up in the record and all those sorts of things. So the question is, with a 4-credit class, how many hours are they in class per week? So typically, a 4-credit course is 200 minutes of contact hours in the class, because in higher education, an hour is 50 minutes for some reason rather than 60. But for every hour spent in class, they might be expected to do 2 or 3 hours worth of work associated with that class. And you multiply that by 4, and all of a sudden your students are pretty busy. Yes?
So our student is, because I'm trying to accelerate through 3.5 years, so during the course of that time period, outside of other courses, I guess I haven't read the whole
Mm-hmm.
orientation book in the guide, which there's certain numbers you can take and certain numbers you can take, correct?
Correct. I think I'm understand. So if your student is bringing in credits and maybe on a bit of an accelerated graduation timeline, or that can also allow a bit of a cushion for some additional opportunities, maybe in a double major or a minor or something else. But that's the. Oh. Okay.
So
No.
I'll offer some ideas for someone bringing in no credits, but maybe how to finish in 3.5 years. We offer January term courses. We offer summer courses. Depending on the semester, I don't recommend it every semester, but some semesters maybe you take 5 courses because of the mix of courses that are happening. So is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. Especially with the January term, I'd say is and again, depending on the major. Yeah, Susan's right about that. But if you took 3 January term courses, that's almost a semester right there.
Have the last question.
Okay, I saw a hand there.
Sure. So the question is there a minimum GPA or is there
In the major,
in the major?
no.
2.0 minimum GPA is required to be in good academic standing and is required to graduate. And so when a student's cumulative GPA may drop below that, then they're on academic probation and they work with our office. And if a student isn't progressing in a certain thing, like a pre-health professional program, and may or may not be competitive for those very kind of competitive professional tracks, we do consult with them and talk about options. Does that respond to the question? Okay.
Yeah, your student will be assigned an academic advisor right prior to classes beginning. It'll be an instructor in their or likely be an instructor in one of their 4 first semester courses. We encourage lots and lots of contact, lots and lots of open conversation with those advisors for questions like that.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Please give them a round of applause.